Your daily dose of sports talk is here. Highlights, interviews, and analysis. From the entertainment capital of the world, SportsWrap with Jason Page starts now.
Welcome to this Tuesday edition of the show. Got a lot to do over the next 60 minutes with yours truly. Dianna Russini is here, waiting in the virtual green room. She does a great job with The Athletic and the Scoop City podcast. She'll be part of Netflix's Christmas Day NFL coverage, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. She'll be working the sidelines on the Vikings-Lions game. I'm sure we'll get that in to our conversation with her. Whole bunch to get to from around the National Football League with our friend Dianna Russini. There is news from college football. One of the big quarterback dominoes that we were waiting to see where it would fall for 2026 has fallen. We'll get into that. Also talk about some of the top quarterbacks that will be in the 2026 NFL draft and who might be drafting them. We'll get into that some. Big night in the NBA for Cooper Flagg, making history as an 18-year-old with the Dallas Mavericks, albeit in a loss against the Jazz. We'll talk about that, the NBA Cup. Big guest announcement coming up for tomorrow's show as well. That we'll get to later on in the program. But we start things, as always, with the big story. And let's talk about the NFL, where last night it was the Miami Dolphins taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And look, I hate to do an I told you so and take a victory lap here, but I'm going to, because I said yesterday on the show, it just didn't make sense that this line was so small, that it was just, 2.5 or 3.5 points that the Steelers were giving the Dolphins on a Monday night game in Pittsburgh, a Pittsburgh team that I think has won like 11 straight Monday night home games or 20 straight Monday, some stupid stat that was thrown out there because there's a stat for everything. A Dolphins team that sucks in the cold. I know the Dolphins had won 4 in a row, but did anybody even bother to pay attention to the fact that it was 17 degrees at kickoff last night in Pittsburgh? And I mean 17 Fahrenheit, not Celsius, for those of you that are watching the show from somewhere else in the world. So, not a shock to me, the result that we got last night in Pittsburgh. But what was interesting to me about what took place in Pittsburgh is a couple of things. Let me start with the Steelers side of it. I watched this game last night, and I put up a SportsWrap short on it. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, you're missing out on SportsWrap shorts, also available on TikTok and Instagram. I don't get the sense that Aaron Rodgers is going to retire. And I want to ask Dianna Russini about this when we have her on. I don't feel like Aaron Rodgers is a guy playing like he's getting ready to retire at the end of the season. I know he has said this is going to be his last season. This doesn't feel like a farewell tour. Watch the way, usually in farewell tours you get you get gifts and presents when you go play on the road against other teams. And I know there were some things after the game when he was being interviewed on the field in terms of, players and coaches coming up to him and showing him love, and it was the kind of love you would see for a guy that's getting ready to retire and who they knew was playing in his, final few games of the regular season. But I don't get the sense that Aaron Rodgers is ready to walk away from this. Or maybe the smiling and the joy that you saw on his face last night is of a guy that's at peace with walking away at this stage. I don't know. And I think that's the overarching theme of what I'm trying to say. Everybody thinks they know that this is going to be Aaron Rodgers' final season. I'm not so sure it is. That doesn't look like a guy that's on his last leg that needs to walk away from the game. But again, the other side to that, because I'm like an attorney, I could argue both sides of anything, is maybe he wants to walk away, still feeling like he could play the game at a high level, but doesn't need to. And then there's the other part of it, which is, what's he going to do when he retires? Tom Brady's got a zillion interests. Tom Brady has other things he's interested in doing. What is Aaron Rodgers going to do? He's not hosting Jeopardy. Ken Jennings got that job. What's he going to do? Sit on a beach? Take ayahuasca? I mean, what's he going to do? I don't see it. I think Aaron Rodgers is playing next year. I don't know if there's a bet available somewhere on that somewhere. There's a prediction market out there that's got it. Aaron Rodgers is going to be playing next year, my opinion. Big story part 2, but connected to the same game. If the Dolphins haven't figured out a solution to move on from Tua Tagovailoa, it's time to find that solution. I have gone to bat for Tua Tagovailoa as much as anybody in the media over the last few years. I was heartbroken at the concussion issues. We thought it might end his career. We were all, encouraging him almost to think about walking away from the game because of the brain trauma that he had been suffering. He's managed to overcome that, knock on wood. But here's something he can't overcome. He's really not a very good NFL quarterback. He's okay. Pedestrian. Can you win games with him? Yeah. Are there a few other teams in the league that would take him as a starter? Yeah. But is that a guy that you watched on Monday night after enough of a body of work where you should be able to answer this question? Do you feel comfortable that that's a guy you're winning a Super Bowl with? There's other guys in the league, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, who we've already seen go to a Super Bowl, Dak Prescott and what he's accomplished from an individual standpoint, obviously not a team standpoint, because we know what the Dallas Cowboys are. Those guys, you feel like you could win something with them, or at least the jury might still be out, maybe in the case of a Trevor Lawrence. I can't say that Tua Tagovailoa is capable of winning you anything more than what he has in his NFL career, which is okay regular season quarterback. You're not winning a Super Bowl with this guy. That throw he made in the first quarter, I know this is going to sound crazy to some. That's a game-changing throw. You're driving down the field. You have a chance to score a touchdown, at least put points on the board to start the game. And you make a throw to the left side. Who are you throwing the football to, Tua? Who's he throwing the football to here? I have no idea. You get no points. Steelers do their thing all night. I think they had touchdowns on 4 straight possessions or scores on 4 straight possessions. They go on to win. Dolphins' playoff hopes are gone. Steelers still lead the division. We got more NFL to do. That's your big story. Dianna Russini of the Scoop City podcast and The Athletic joins us next. We keep things moving on this Tuesday edition of the show. Dianna Russini is a terrific NFL insider. The Athletic hosts the Scoop City podcast. And you'll get to see her on Christmas Day on Netflix. Because who won't be watching Netflix on Christmas Day? Netflix and chill. With Dianna Russini, will be handling the sidelines. Sam just gives me that okay boomer look when I say things like that. Dianna Russini will be on the sidelines for Vikings. Who are the Vikings playing on Christmas Day again?
They got the Lions, which, the Lion. I know the Vikings are out, but the Lions, they obviously are in contention here, and they're trying to win out here. So the Athletics playoff projector has them getting in with like 98%, some crazy numbers. So they're locked in here, and they're going to obviously try to bring the best version of them on Christmas Day on Netflix. So yeah, I'm excited to be there, and I'm very, very, very happy it's indoors in Minnesota.
So you'll be working the sidelines for that game. I'll be looking forward to watching that on Christmas Day while I'm in San Francisco, because I will be doing a little weekend, little getaway for Christmas. Yeah. And so I'll be in San Francisco watching you there. All right. So I have to ask you, I brought this up last night. I brought it up in the big story. I brought it up last night in a SportsWrap short. This doesn't feel like a retirement tour for Aaron Rodgers to me. This does not feel like Aaron Rodgers is getting ready to walk away.
Yeah, I can see why you think that.
I don't have those vibes from this. Am I nuts to think that there's a chance he plays next year?
It's funny you say that, because when I was having my coffee this morning, I was scrolling through Instagram and I was watching some of Rodgers' comments, and he's so thoughtful when speaking of former teammates, current teammates, coaches. I mean, every person gets all his love and attention and warmth. So sometimes when I hear those, it sounds like a tour. It sounds like a retirement tour. Like he's just giving all the love back because this is it for him. But then there's things he's doing out there and the way he's competing and playing very well last night, by the way, where you're like, why are you going to retire? Like you can still play football at a high level. I know the Steelers want him back. You know, I talked to them at the owners' meetings in October, and they're like, man, we hope he wants to come back. We want to sign him for a longer deal. So, look, I don't think it would be shocking if he decides to stay. But I think most around the league think this is it. But it's always hard to figure out what it is that Aaron Rodgers wants to do.
That's just it. You know, he can wake up in a cave somewhere in South America in March or April and say, you know what? I've got another year in me.
Do you
and
remember
here's the other
that?
thing. What
that
the
was crazy after Green Bay. You're jogging my memory of like.
Thank you.
At the time, I was at ESPN on Get Up, and we were just waiting and waiting for him to leave the cave. Like, just think about that concept.
Just
like
saying.
The sports world is waiting while you're in a cave.
Yeah, I know. It's nuts. But like I said, to me, it wouldn't shock me because here's the thing. You know, like, Tom Brady's got a lot of interest. He owning part of the Raiders, and he's got these card shops. He just opened up a card and collectible shop here in Las Vegas, Dianna. I get the sense that Aaron Rodgers doesn't have that. So I don't know what I think he wakes up one morning in the spring and goes, well, what else am I going to do?
I think you're actually, like, I know the point you're making about Tom Brady, right? With all the businesses and television opportunities and ownership and all the things, like he has his hands in a lot of different pots. But I still think Tom Brady has that fire. Like, you hear him talking about the Phillip Rivers thing. I don't know. Without getting into his personal life, but it's like, look what Tom Brady has decided to do with his life. He could have retired after winning the Super Bowl in Tampa Bay and came back and played. The guy loves the game.
Yeah.
He's doing that flag football thing. Like, again, Aaron Rodgers, we can't figure out, but I'm with you now. Like,
there we go.
I'm gonna follow along on this and start making some calls.
Quote from Dianna Russini on the show today, by the way. I would not be shocked, is what she said. I just want to make sure everybody knows that.
They're coming for me.
We're putting that out there.
Yeah, make sure you put that in the caption on Twitter.
Absolutely.
Let's have everyone quote. Russini says Rodgers is back.
I would not be shocked. Absolutely. There we go. Sam, go ahead.
Dianna, from one dinosaur quarterback in the AFC to another, Phillip Rivers, as you mentioned, will start another game for the Indianapolis Colts this week. This is an organization that's in free fall right now. I mean, there's no other nice way to put it. What are you hearing around Indianapolis? What are their thoughts going into next season? Are they going to recommit to Daniel Jones?
Yeah.
And do they have any hope left for this season?
Yeah, let's start there. Let's start with now. You take a look at that game and you see what Indy did on defense, right? Lou Anarumo, the defensive coordinator, has always done a really good job of game planning with that roster, which is talented. They should have won that game. Right?
Yep.
And I do think Phillip Rivers has given them a little shot in the arm of, wait, maybe we can do this now. And how do you not play hard for someone like that who's come out and just has been pure joy to just watch, crying at the podium, hoping that the lesson learned here is not to be fearful. Like, everything about this story, which, by the way, when the story broke that he was coming out, I remember like laughing and being like, wow, that's pretty cool, but thinking it would fizzle. But now I think this is one of the best stories of the year, without a doubt. So look, I think for Indy, they're in this to try to go as far as they possibly can. What they had with Daniel Jones, they knew was good. They had never discussed any contract extensions at all, because remember, Daniel's on a 1-year deal with them. But now that he's going to get the surgery, from everything I understand, they want Daniel Jones to be their quarterback next year. So we'll see how the rehab goes and how that plays out for them. But obviously that's a darn good statement for Daniel Jones, knowing that It wasn't great in New York, and he's really kind of revamped the way teams, specifically the Colts, have seen him.
A lot of people thought they were going to get embarrassed in Seattle. And they didn't.
Yeah.
Sam, you had something you wanted to add real quick?
Just real quick, Diana, in the last minute we have in this segment, for Phillip Rivers, what does he have to do in the last 3 weeks of the season to prove himself as the comeback player of the year and win that award in a 4-week stretch?
Gosh, it's...
No.
I don't... Well, who's his competition? Sam Darnold?
Yes, I think he's probably the proverbial favorite right now.
Yeah, I mean, it was Daniel Jones's, I think, before the injury. There's one we're missing. There's a bigger name that I remember thinking, because I'm a voter, and I remember thinking, oh, this is my guy. Oh, I don't want to say it now.
Say it quick. I got 10 seconds.
Oh, sorry, because now it looks really dumb. It was going to be Joe Flacco.
All right.
But
Okay.
that doesn't make any sense.
All
Now
right.
it's so stupid. Okay, so
More-
no,
hold on,
I don't
hold
think
on.
Phillip Rivers is going to get it, but I want it.
All right. We're coming right back. More with Dianna. All right, let's continue the conversation with Dianna Russini, host of the Scoop City podcast, also with The Athletic. You'll see her on Christmas Day on Netflix doing the Vikings-Lions game. She'll be on the sidelines for that. Because all the major networks have said, we're not loaning you our talent. Go find your own talent. And Diana's like, I'm free. Got nothing else. Please, the last thing you want to do on Christmas is be around family, Diana. This is like a gift to you.
You know what? My cousin texted me that. She's like, I know you feel guilt because the kids. I would trade places with you in a minute.
Sam's got a question about the Chiefs. I'll let him lead with that. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah,
I'm magnanimous.
Diana, obviously, massive story this weekend out of Kansas City. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes undergoing the surgery Monday night to repair his knee. But the Chiefs eliminated from playoff contention essentially before the knee injury for Mahomes. The outlook is grim, right? And there are Kansas City fans calling for the job of Andy Reid, one of the highest prestige coaches in the National Football League. What are you hearing out of the Chiefs building going into this week, going into the rest of this season for this team that hasn't played non-meaningful games in 10 years?
The Kansas City Chiefs are not firing Andy Reid. So we'll make that very clear. I think that Andy Reid is very aware and has the pulse of this team and understands that they need to revamp. They need to basically turn the page on this chapter of what we've seen from the Chiefs over the last few years and start taking a look at the roster, making probably some hard decisions too on players that have been part of them that may cost too much money or may not be contributing in the way they used to. They've got to grow the run game or at least improve there. There's some moves they got to make on defense as well up front. Look, they know they've got a lot of work to do. And Brett Veach has done a phenomenal job over the years of keeping them in it every single year. Yes, it's Patrick Mahomes. He's phenomenal and he does what he does, but they find ways. I think a lot of people think the offensive line is the problem. I think they're actually good there. I think maybe a couple tweaks here and there in terms of a couple players, but that's actually a solid group for now. So I expect this offseason for them to try to find a way to almost just a revamp, a reboot of what they want to be. And this whole idea that Patrick Mahomes has lost it and whatever, there's so many weird narratives. Patrick Mahomes is one of the most psychotic, competitive people I've ever been around. I think this injury, he is going to come back with the biggest chip on his shoulder. And he is going to come out next year and do the things that make us go, oh, yeah, I forgot he is the best quarterback in football.
Could you ever imagine them drafting a quarterback, though, he's 30, he's played a lot of games, these extra, there's a lot of tread on those tires. Could you ever imagine them, if they're in a position, if something falls to them, drafting somebody to be his heir apparent?
Yeah, let's just talk about next year. I don't get the sense that this is good quarterback class. They're okay, right? There's not a lot of studs, so I don't see it now. But I mean, this is a team that had Alex Smith and drafted Patrick Mahomes, so it's obviously not out of the ordinary for teams to start thinking. I think you have to definitely start thinking about it though. If you're Brett Veach, of injury, coming off this wear and tear. And the wear and tear, by the way, it's a compliment. It's such a weird compliment. It's like, hi, you have so much wear and tear because you play in the Super Bowl all the time, you know? Like, because you play more football than any other team. That's why you're torn down or worn down a little bit.
Will the Dolphins draft a quarterback? Are we officially in the, we have to start figuring out a way to move away? I know the cap situation makes it a little difficult for the Dolphins, but they have to do something. You can't win. Tua Tagovailoa making that throw in the first quarter last night is unforgivable to me. In that spot, that team with a chance to go to 7-7 after the start they had. I'm sorry, this deep into your career, you cannot make that throw in that game in that spot.
I know. And it's you criticize Tua, and it's hard not to remember some of these games where he's played and he's exceptional. And you're just getting this mixed bag, and it hasn't been great this season at times. And it's hard to say, like, man, you're paying this guy what, $56 million a year? Look, I think this is an organization that is obviously working behind the scenes. I can tell you this, trying to fill this GM void, right? They're trying to figure out who do we want, whose vision are we buying in on? Then they have to address the head coach. The sense I've been getting is that they're keeping him. But I think it depends on how they finish, because the one thing Mike McDaniel has done very well is he's kept his guys engaged. Lots of times when teams are losing, they go through all these issues, they lose the locker room, you hear stories start leaking out. Guys I talked to there are like, he's got a grip on this team really well. Obviously, it wasn't a great performance against the Steelers in the cold. They stink in the cold. But they've got a lot of question marks in Miami, and Tua specifically for sure.
Dianna, Marcus Freeman is a name that has been mentioned around a bunch of different NFL jobs, namely the Giants. What are you getting is the sense that he actually will take that Giants job and leave Notre Dame this offseason?
Yeah, Marcus Freeman is definitely going to be a name we're going to hear more and more over the next few weeks. The New York Giants are one of those teams right now who have a vacancy and have him on their list of candidates who they plan on interviewing. But I think there's also going to be teams that have coaches in place that are going to want Marcus Freeman, or at least have some sort of interest and want to get a feel from him of, hey, is this what you want to do? Now, I say that without having spoken to Marcus Freeman myself. But I think it's important to stress this, because I have this conversation with a lot of coaches in both college and the NFL. And I don't think fans know this, or not that they don't know this. They don't think about this all the time, because they think college is the best because it's fun and they get paid a lot of money. College coaching is so hard. And I think a lot of these coaches, definitely the assistants, would love to jump into the NFL. Most want to coach in the National Football League. And especially the way NIL is, the way boosters are, just the wild, wild west of what the college world is right now. It's just a cleaner way to manage in the NFL. It's also less time. You're not recruiting. We know all of that. So I think it's always, I've always a little blown away by the reaction whenever we've reported coaches in college that have interest in the NFL. They're like, no, why would they ever leave? It's like, because life is better in the NFL, right? And it's the top of the mountain. It's where you want to be. So I say that without knowing what Marcus actually wants to do. But you have to figure, if he winds up taking these interviews, he's not playing around with the NFL. You can't do that. You can't have a reputation of just, meeting to meet and not really having any thought or any intention of actually taking the job.
Dianna Russini does a great job with The Athletic, the Scoop City podcast. Catch her Christmas Day on Netflix, doing the Vikings and the Lions, 4:30 p.m. Eastern on the sidelines. I got it all in. We're coming back. Thanks for being with us. About halfway home on this Tuesday edition of SportsWrap. Coming up in 10 minutes, I will do something that I have not done since moving to Las Vegas on Tuesday night. I'll tell you what that is coming up. Also, a very cool guest announcement for tomorrow's show. I'll tell you about that as well. All right, Sam Yarnell, from the NFL to college football, which also ties into the NFL, with Arch Manning deciding to spend another year at Texas, this is a no-brainer to me. The way he played in the second half of the season, silencing a lot of the critics, people like me, and putting himself, I think, in a better position. A lot of times, and this is where, coming from the Manning family and having that sort of insight into what's next for him, I think is so valuable, because a lot of guys might have the second half of the season he's had and said, oh, I'm declaring, I'm getting out of here now. The combination of NIL, paired with the fact that he's at a really good school and a good program with a great head coach, and knowing that he'll be able to sort of own next year's draft class if he continues with that forward momentum, this is a no-brainer for Arch Manning, isn't it?
Yeah, Jason, I think that, a conversation, a broader conversation that we can start to have and kind of extrapolate out of this is the development of the quarterback position and how it's changed over the course of the last, even half a decade alone, ever since the implementation of this NIL and transfer portal kind of dynamic in college sports. It's hopefully this is an example, right, of it revamping the development of the quarterback position, because a lot of people have been talking about this season or in seasons leading up to this, right? We, the American football public, have kind of forgotten how to develop the quarterback. As hard as that is to say, it's pretty true. Up until now, quite frankly, as soon as quarterbacks were juniors, they were leaving because the money in the NFL was better. This is one of the few good things that NIL has brought to college sports. It's going to make the quality of NFL quarterbacks better over the course of the next couple of years. And Arch Manning is an example of why, right? He is not next year going to be good enough to play in the National Football League. However, he will be good enough to play another year in the SEC, and playing another year in the SEC is going to get him a lot more ready to take that next step to the NFL. So yes, I agree with you. It's a no-brainer. It's something I think that we're going to start to see a lot more frequently with quarterbacks, especially, is them using more of their eligibility rather than sprinting to the NFL at their very first possible chance. And Jason, quite frankly, that makes me excited for the future of quarterback play in the National Football League.
Very well said. That takes us to who is going to be eligible for this draft, and kind of pairing that up with sort of the standings and then trying to figure out, all right, who could potentially wind up where? Dante Moore seems like the consensus number one quarterback. Not necessarily the number one overall pick, because if you're the New York Giants and you wind up with that top overall pick, which they could right now, they are in line for that top overall pick, you're not going with a quarterback. So that leaves Dante Moore to go to the second potential pick in the draft, which would be Las Vegas, who very much needs a quarterback. And it's kind of interesting, though, because after that, you're probably 3, Tennessee's not going quarterback. 4, Cleveland's not going quarterback, I don't think. Although it is Cleveland. You never know. And then the Jets at 5 would be the next quarterback. So after Dante Moore, you start looking down the list, it's Fernando Mendoza. That could be the second pick off the board if you're talking about quarterbacks in this draft.
Las Vegas thinks Fernando Mendoza is going to be the first overall pick right now. He's minus 150 to be the first overall pick. But Jason, you're right. And what makes it so interesting about how this draft is starting to shape up as we're heading into week 16 talking about it, we're going to see a lot of trades, right? Because like you said, that the team that has the number one overall pick could very well be the Giants, who are not in the market for a quarterback. They're going to want some return on that value in terms of somebody like the Raiders or the Jets, probably the Raiders if it is the Giants, trading up into that number one overall spot. The Giants, I would imagine, would like to maximize that value, and the Raiders kind of have to spend up to get it, because you want one of these top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in this draft in Mendoza, Dante Moore, and Ty Simpson, right? There's a little bit of a drop off when we start to talk about Lenoris Sellers, Garrett Nussmeier, Carson Beck, right? All guys who we had highly touted coming into this college football season and had pretty big letdown seasons across the board in terms of those 3. If you're the Raiders or the Jets or these other teams that we're talking about needing a quarterback, the Arizona Cardinals potentially, call me crazy, maybe the Cincinnati Bengals in a weird world, right, where they're trading Joe Burrow. I want to get one of these top 3 quarterbacks. I don't want to risk it down the line with the next 3 or 4.
Yeah, and Ty Simpson is still out there. John Mateer is a name you have to look for. Darian Mensah. I mean, there's a lot of potential guys out there, that could go. And we mentioned Dario, the kid from Vanderbilt. He's going to probably go later in the draft. He's certainly not something we're looking towards the top of the draft. And who we talked about at the top of the show in the big story, and that's the Dolphins. And what are they going to do potentially at the quarterback position? Could they move up to go get one of these guys if necessary as well? So a lot of possibilities, but it starts with Arch Manning's decision to stay in school, and then we look at everybody else and see where the chips fall. The beauty of this too, Sam, is that I'm looking forward to basically the 3 top guys are all playing in the college football playoffs.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get a look at these guys, and their draft stock obviously could shift depending on what happens in the playoffs. All right, to the NBA, Cooper Flagg planting his, but it's in a loss. Plus a big guest announcement for tomorrow's show. That's next. Odds and Ends wraps it up in 10 minutes. All right, so some cool stuff to announce, Sam Yarnell. I am going to do something tonight that I have not done since moving to Las Vegas, and that is actually attend one of the big 4 major league sports events. I'm going to the NBA Cup Finals tonight. Going to see the Knicks and Spurs over at T-Mobile Arena. Still plenty of seats available, by the way. Did you hear that? By the way, they're talking about the fact that the NBA Cup may move next year, the finals. They already were planning to move the semifinals, but now they're talking about moving the finals out of Las Vegas because there's no vibe. And it's not anybody's fault, per se. People are going to the games, but when you have something that's set up the way this is, where you don't know who's going to be in the semifinals and finals until a week before, it's hard to plan travel around that. So it's hard to get fans and the right fans into T-Mobile Arena for this. Now, I will say, with that said, there was some vibe in that Thunder Spurs game on Saturday night. A lot of it for the Spurs because everybody was rooting for the underdog in that game. But apparently they're talking about moving the finals, and we should find out more about that on Tuesday. Adam Silver's going to have a press conference here in Las Vegas before the NBA Cup final matchup. So anyway, cool thing number 1, I'm actually going to the NBA Cup final. I don't go to sporting events these days. I'm a shut-in. I'm a bit of a hermit. I don't like to go out. I'll actually go to the Cup final game tonight. 2, and it's my Knicks playing. That is a Patrick Ewing signed basketball above my head that a lot of people think is sprouting from my head because of its location in the studio. 2, Stan Van Gundy, scheduled to be on the show on Wednesday from Prime Video, longtime friend of mine. Looking forward to talking basketball with him on the show tomorrow as well. All right, all of that out of the way. Sam Yarnell, we had a showing last night. Showing out was Cooper Flagg. What do you have, 42? The most points ever for an 18-year-old in the NBA. Showing up and showing out. The only problem is the Mavericks lost. And can I just say, this is a bit of a pet peeve of mine. And I don't know where we got to this point in sports where we celebrate guys who have great individual efforts in losses. And it's got to drive coaches nuts. I'm going to ask Stan about this tomorrow. Talk about stupid things to ask Stan Van Gundy when you have an opportunity to have him on the show. Just how much it drives me crazy when you have the celebration in a team sport when the idea is to win, the team to win. Cooper Flagg has 42 last night. His team lost. I don't care.
Yeah. Not only did his team lose, his team lost to like one of the worst talent-wise teams in the NBA. Yeah. Like, I know, the Jazz have 10 wins. Oh, my goodness, Lord save us. The Jazz have 10 wins and are currently in the last play-in spot only because they have fewer losses than teams like Portland, and Dallas, the team they beat. Like, Yeah, cool. Cooper Flag's great. And because of the injuries that this team has unfortunately endured, he's luckily playing a position he's more comfortable with. This is something we talked about with Kurt weeks ago, right? We expected Cooper Flag to not flourish, but at least have a little bit more success in this new role that the Mavs are going to be able to play him in. Thank goodness that he's finally doing something. This was a number 1 overall pick who was your odds-on favorite to win Rookie of the Year coming into the season, who nearly lost it to his former teammate a quarter of the way through. Yes, it is great that Cooper Flag went out and put up 42 points. But like you said, Jason, you lost to a team that is not better than you talent-wise.
Lauri Markkanen's really good and going to be a target for trades.
And not going to be on the Jazz for very long.
No, probably not. Probably not going to be on the Jazz for very long. And they'll pile up some assets, some draft assets, I would imagine, for him. But a great game for Flag. And by the way, Rookie of the Year voting, Rookie of the Year, I should say, betting, FanDuel, if you're looking at the futures on it, Cooper Flag right now, minus 185. Con Kneppel is his closest rival at plus 175. And that's it. After that, it's a huge drop-off. Derek Queen, VJ Edgecombe, Cedric Coward, Jeremiah Fierce. So that's what you got. But it's basically a two-man race right now with Flag and Kneppel.
I mean, people falling asleep on Derek Queen pretty quick. He's had a pretty good last month. But
a lot of season
left. I mean, Con Kneppel has been great for a Charlotte team that's outperformed expectations that were wildly low to begin with. Regardless, the funny thing about this is minus 185 on Flag, again, is a shorter number than when the season started, and it was minus 200.
Can I also say this, though? There's been some really good early regular season NBA basketball. And last night was another example on Peacock. They had the Rockets Nuggets. What a game. Went to overtime. And you're starting to see, again, everybody's talking about this changing of the guard in the NBA. Luka, from LeBron to Luka now on the Lakers. And I was seeing it last night with Alperen Şengün and Durant. Late in that game in the fourth quarter, it was Alperen Şengün that took the shot that wound up sending that game into overtime for the Rockets. It wasn't Kevin Durant. And in the final seconds of overtime, when they had a chance to tie the game down 3, again, it was not Kevin Durant taking the shot. It was Alperen Şengün. And, you're starting to see that changing of the guard around the league. Again, something we'll talk about with Stan tomorrow.
Şengün is a baller, but the defense still struggled. Couldn't hold Nikola Jokic under a triple-double?
Who can hold Nikola Jokic? The only thing that stopped him,
in the NBA.
Only thing that stopped him was 6 fouls, and he fouled out. We're coming back with odds and ends next.
That's true. That's true.
All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Tuesday. Again, a reminder, tomorrow's show, Stan Van Gundy from Prime Video, former NBA head coach. You'll see him on the Tuesday night coverage of the NBA Cup final with D. Wade. I think Ian Eagle's doing the game. If not, it'll be Michael Grady. Michael Grady is kind of an interesting play-by-play guy. Been taking him in a bit lately on the Prime Video broadcasts. A couple of reminders before we go. Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. If you have not subscribed yet, do so. It is the audio version of this show, Monday through Friday, wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon, anywhere you get a podcast. You can listen to this show Monday through Friday. Go and check it out. It's about 45 minutes long. Great on the drive to work. Go and do that. We appreciate it. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel, the place for all things Sports Wrap on the video side. We've got the TV show there early in the afternoons, Monday through Friday, available to you. Go and subscribe to the channel. We also have Sports Wrap shorts there. These are 1 to 3 minute videos. Usually they're only about a minute long. Easy to consume in that vertical format the kids love these days. I don't know what this is, but the vertical format that kids love these days. TikTok, Instagram, we also have them there. SportsWrap Shorts covering the top stories of the day, biggest games at night. We have the NFL covered for you every Sunday with tons of SportsWrap Shorts. Again, SportsWrap Shorts on YouTube, on the SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Also on TikTok, SportsWrap Jason Page is the handle there. And on Instagram, again, SportsWrap Jason Page. And without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell. NBA Cup final tonight between the Knicks and the Spurs. It is still the line has not moved at all on this game, Sam Yarnell. It is still 2.5. The Knicks minus 2.5, and I don't feel I'm going to the game and have a rooting interest. I'm a huge Knicks fan, but I'm not going to be able to bet the game tonight because I could never bet against the Knicks as a fan of the Knicks. But I can't bet the Spurs, but I think the Spurs are going to win the game, Sam. Spurs plus 120 on the money line. 234.5 is the total. The only game in the NBA tonight. Who wins, Sam Yarnell?
It's tough. It's tough. A lot of good guard play in this game and a couple good bigs, too. I don't know. It's going to be a good game, hopefully.
There's talk, by the way. There's talk they're going to bring Wemby off the bench tonight, potentially.
Well, that's what they did in the last game, right? So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, all that really makes interesting is the opening tip, but even still. The bet that I'm really excited to make tonight is Josh Hart over 13.5 rebounds plus assists. You should be able to bet this just about anywhere in the country. They offer these combo markets under player combos. Listen, Josh Hart's a guy who's shown you in crunch games for the New York Knicks over the last couple of years that he plays gritty basketball, right? He's not necessarily going to score the basketball, but he's going to do what it takes to help his team win. He's going to grab rebounds. He's going to dish out the ball. So I'll take Josh Hart over 13.5 rebounds plus assists in this game. That's probably my best look, Jason. I think I'm with you. I think I'd lean to the Spurs just because it's nice to take the underdog. I like the under, though. 234.5 feels high for a playoff atmosphere.
That's a good question. The total is. I think the total is. I think they set the number perfect on this total. I think that's a really good number. Because I don't think I'd touch it. I can't believe I'm going to go to a game, watch it live, and not bet on it.
Josh Hart,
seriously.
Rebounds plus assists. It's not a bad bet. Doesn't take the Knicks winning. You get to root for a Knick.
Yeah. The Wemby stuff is tricky,
Stop by
too.
your local sports book on the way.
The Wemby stuff is also tricky, Sam, because what happened the other night could happen, where they say he's playing, then he doesn't start, everybody bets his props, and then they all lose their mind when he's coming off the bench and doesn't hit the numbers that some of the people had set for him. I hope the Knicks win, but if you made me bet Sam's money on it, I say the Knicks lose tonight, and the Spurs will be celebrating. All right, one more. The Los Angeles baseball Dodgers. I don't know if there's any other kind. The Los Angeles Dodgers, Sam Yarnell, have officially crossed $1 billion in deferred payments. This is what's wrong with baseball. This cannot be allowed to happen. $1 billion they're paying out to Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, who knows who else. Are you getting a deferred payment, Sam? Because everybody else is.
We all should be at this point, Jason Page. It is ridiculous. I would assume the majority of that is within Shohei Ohtani's contract, no?
It's not all of it. There's a lot. I told you, Mookie's getting a ton that they're not paying out until like 2035, 2036.
Okay.
This is crazy.
So this is what I was really stalling for. The Los Angeles Dodgers now have deferred payments that make up more than the GDP of the following countries: Tuvalu, the Marshall Islands, Palau, Micronesia, Tonga, Dominica, and Sao Tome and Principe. The Los Angeles Dodgers are operating more strongly than the economies of all of those countries.
No offense, but does anybody live in those places? Does anybody live in them? It's like when Trump tariffed the Marshall Islands and people were like, nobody lives there. Who's he tariffing? Help? Somebody? We gotta go. Does it for us. Thanks to Sam Yarnell. Thanks to all of you for watching at home. Dianna Russini. NBA Cup Final. I'll be there tonight. Stan Van Gundy tomorrow. We'll see you.